In just a little over 2 years, the Strawhats went from being a weak and unknown crew from East Blue to one of the most powerful crews of all time, becoming a Yonko crew. But this is still just the beginning, because each of them will gain incredible new powers after Elbaf their final powers. So if you want to know all about that and much more, stick with me, because that's exactly what I'm going to show you now. Let's start with Franky. During the time skip, Franky found one of Vegapunk's facilities, where he spent 2 years studying its technology and implementing it into his body, like his laser beams, for example. And now in Elbaf, history is about to repeat itself, because Franky has found a very advanced technological facility, but it's over 3,000 years old. A facility with ancient technology, which is a huge opportunity for him to further upgrade his body by installing new mechanisms, and maybe even gaining a new power. After all, this place seems to contain some of the greatest technologies in the world, maybe even linked to the ancient weapons, which will no doubt give Franky a massive power boost. But we also have to remember that Franky is the one in charge of the Thousand Sunny, to the point where his wanted poster even shows the image of the ship, a clear sign that he might eventually merge with the Sunny and become a giant robot. We can't forget that Franky once had the blueprints for the ancient weapon Pluton, and even though he destroyed them, it's very likely that he memorized a lot of what he saw and could use that knowledge along with the ancient technology of the Thousand Sunny. Now let's move on to Usopp, who is definitely set to have major development in Elbaf. The first abilities he needs to learn are related to armament haki. We've already seen through Shank's crew that it's possible to coat projectiles with armament haki, making them much more destructive. Besides that, Usopp's lies have a strange tendency to become reality, something we've seen time and time again. He has even lied in the past about possessing Conqueror's haki, which could be a strong hint that he might actually awaken that rare ability in the future. But without a doubt, his strongest ability lies in his observation haki. Usopp awakened it naturally without even training, which shows that he has great potential to develop it further, possibly reaching the level of future sight. That would make him an extremely skilled marksman, able to see where his enemies will move before they do, and of course that would make Usopp incredibly powerful. But there's another one of his lies that might become reality in Elbaf, the one where he told Perona he could lift a hammer weighing several tons. In Elbaf, we've seen that Loki has a massive hammer that only he can lift, so there's a chance Usopp might fulfill that lie too, by lifting it, turning himself not only into a long-range fighter, but also a close combat warrior, just like in the old days when he used a small hammer. Now let's talk about Nami. When it comes to haki, I don't believe Nami will master armament haki, since that's not her fighting style, nor do I think she'll awaken Conqueror's haki. However, observation haki is directly linked to prediction, and that's something Nami has naturally developed. She's capable of predicting the weather even in the world's most unpredictable seas, relying solely on her instincts. Vivi herself pointed out that this isn't normal, and goes far beyond just meteorological knowledge. Because of that, I believe Nami will awaken her observation haki to a level similar to Ayasa, the young girl from Skypiea who could hear all the voices on the Sky Island. Of course, for Nami, it would manifest differently. She could be able to sense natural disasters, like storms, long before they happen. This would be a huge asset to the Straw Hats as they head into the final stretch toward the last island. Another improvement would be to her climate act, which now includes Zeus, and has already evolved significantly throughout the story. With Franky studying ancient technology, he could potentially upgrade Nami's climate act even more, giving her the power to actually manipulate the weather, something that's definitely possible with ancient tech. And now moving on to Robin. So far, Robin hasn't shown any haki abilities, and among the 3 types, I believe the only one she might eventually awaken is armament haki. But the truth is, Robin's real strength has never been about haki, it lies in her devil fruit. In Wano, Robin revealed an incredible new ability, her Demon Fleur transformation, which allowed her to defeat Black Maria. And we still know practically nothing about this ability, since it only appeared for about a page and a half in the manga. But all signs suggest that this is Robin's final form, her ultimate power. Now in Elbaf, Robin will likely have a greater focus on the ancient history, especially since she was able to read the ancient text in the giant's sacred book, Harley. And that library contains not only all of Ohara's books, but also the knowledge of the giants. So her growth in Elbaf will come from uncovering more about the world's hidden history. Next we move on to Chopper. Chopper's power has always been centered around his many transformations, which he accessed through the use of Rumble Balls. For the time skip, he needed 1 Rumble Ball to access his various forms, and 3 to activate his most powerful one, Monster Point. But after the time skip, Chopper could access all his forms without needing a Rumble Ball, and now requires only 1 to use Monster Point. This clearly shows that he hasn't reached his final form yet. Chopper will almost certainly be able to transform into Monster Point without needing a single Rumble Ball, and the key to unlocking that lies in the medical knowledge of Elbaf. In fact, Chopper is already reading medical books written by the giants. As for haki, Chopper hasn't awakened any yet, but both armament and observation haki would be essential for him, since he's a close combat fighter. Now we move on to Brook. Honestly, it's surprising that Brook still hasn't shown any confirmed use of haki, especially considering he's an old pirate from Roger's era, and also a swordsman. As we've seen in Wano, swordsmanship relies heavily on advanced armament haki. Because of this, it's highly likely that Brook will eventually unlock both armament and observation haki, but without a doubt, his true strength lies in his devil fruit, the one that allows him to control his soul and wield freezing energy. We saw through the Gorosei and Saint Saturn that freezing energy can even defeat pacifistas with a single blow. So Brook still has a lot of room to grow and incredible potential ahead, possibly learning to use this freezing energy in a much more powerful way. Next up among the Straw Hats is Jinbei. Jinbei is a true physical monster. He blocked a magma attack from Akainu and also withstood a strike from Big Mom. We've seen him defeat multiple enemies with just one hit. In Wano, he fought Who's Who, showing that even a commander-level opponent stood no chance against him. Jinbei already possesses extremely powerful armament haki, strong enough to break Who's Who's fingers, even when they were coated with hardening haki. His observation haki is also solid, leaving only one question. Could he possibly have Conqueror's haki? He truly has the qualities of a leader: wisdom, strength, and authority. However, Conqueror's haki is something you're born with, and since Jinbei is already 46 years old, it's likely that if he had it, he would have awakened it by now. So in the end, Jinbei is already an incredibly experienced pirate, and his current strength is probably his peak. He's fully developed his potential, and is undoubtedly one of the most powerful Straw Hats. And now, moving on to Luffy. Luffy has already awakened his devil fruit, and possesses all three types of haki in their advanced forms. But even so, he hasn't yet reached his full potential. When Shanks' powers were introduced, we saw the overwhelming difference between his haki and Luffy's. Shanks can see much farther into the future. He was able to foresee the full damage of Kid's attack before it even happened, which means he saw minutes ahead, not just a few seconds like Luffy currently can. Shanks is also known as the observation haki killer, because with his own Conqueror's haki, he can prevent his opponents from seeing the future, a haki-based ability that Luffy still hasn't mastered. This opens the door for Luffy to grow even stronger by improving his haki. In Elbaf, we also met Gaban, who told Luffy to look for him later. Since Gaban is one of the top 3 strongest members of the Roger Pirates, said to be on par with the Pirate King himself, he undoubtedly has incredible haki, which he could finally pass on to Luffy. But of course, Luffy's true strength has always been, and always will be, his devil fruit. From the start, Luffy's gears have been his most iconic abilities, and with Gear 5 it seems like he reached his peak. But that's still not the end. As we saw in his fight against the Gorosei, his punches had no effect on Saint Saturn, not because of the Elder's regeneration, but because of their insane durability. In fact, Luffy's own hand was damaged in the process, showing once again that his Gear 5 still has much room for improvement. And Elbaf will be the place where he finally masters his powers. Of all places in the world, Elbaf holds the most information about Nika. Once Luffy uncovers more about the past Nikas and how they fought, he may finally unlock his fruit's full potential. Now moving on to Zoro. In terms of haki, Zoro already has advanced armament haki, and the extremely rare advanced Conqueror's haki. He can also use observation haki, although he hasn't yet refined it to the point of seeing into the future, a skill that will be essential for his future battles. But without a doubt, one of Zoro's greatest next evolutions will be turning one of his swords into a black blade. It was revealed that doing so immediately upgrades the sword's rank, which would allow Zoro to finally obtain a supreme grade sword, making it far more durable and lethal. And in terms of technique, Zoro's ultimate technique is Ashura, the one that makes him appear to have 3 heads and 9 swords. Up until now, Zoro has used this form only a handful of times throughout the story, and that's likely because the illusion it creates is directly tied to his haki. This drains his life energy, leaving him completely exhausted afterward. That's why he only uses it in moments of life or death. However, in Wano, Zoro declared himself the King of Hell. In Hindu mythology, Ashura is a 3-headed warrior, but he is not the true King of Hell. That title belongs to Yama, the god of death. Because of that, it's very likely that Zoro will eventually develop a final new form one, where he becomes Yama, the true king. This would represent the fully advanced form of Ashura, the true King of Hell transformation. Now moving on to the next Straw Hat, Sanji. In terms of haki, Sanji already has both armament and observation haki, and it's very likely that he will eventually unlock the advanced versions of both. There's also been a hint in one of the color spreads that suggests he might awaken Conqueror's haki too. As for his abilities, in Wano, Sanji unlocked his genetic enhancements, which caused the flames on his legs to burn even hotter, turning blue. So why couldn't he go even further and unlock black flames, matching his title, Black Leg Sanji? He could also go a step further by learning the abilities of his siblings, like Niji's lightning-fast movement that looks like teleportation, or even Judge's electric kick, combining electricity with his flames. This would make his kicks even more devastating, and turn Sanji into the perfect soldier his father always wanted to create. Ironically, Sanji was the only sibling Judge discarded as a failure, but now he could surpass all of them by mastering their powers and proving he's the strongest of them all. And that wraps up the possible power-ups the Straw Hats could achieve after Elbaf. I want to know what you think. Do you agree with these theories? Is there any power you believe a Straw Hat might awaken that I didn't mention in this video? Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.